please stand in reverence for the playing of the national anthem of Jamaica, Land We Love. Great. You may be seated, those who are in the live audience. Even those who are virtually joining us, wherever you are in the world, welcome all. Welcome to this wonderful occasion. The launch, the 16th anniversary launch, in fact, of Legal Deposit Month here in the National Library of Jamaica. I greet you all. I just have to quickly do a disclaimer and a correction for some folks who saw the flyer and thought, hey, legal deposit, can I come deposit something that is now legal? And I have to say it is just published matter we're talking about here, audio, video, and printed material. So my friend who asks, you can't deposit a pound of what you think is now legal. Just to be clear on that. Let me first of all start out by acknowledging and honoring and saluting the Honorable Olivia Grange, CD, MP, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, and the Honorable Orlando Terrelong, MP, State Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. Also greet the Chairman of the National Library of Jamaica Board of Management, Joy Douglas, and the National Librarian at the NLJ, Beverly Lashley. Greet our performers, greet the artists, greet all of you who are home, or wherever you are in the world, joining us in this virtual event as we mark Legal Deposit Month 16th anniversary here in the Daphne Douglas Reading Room at the National Library of Jamaica. And I'm going to start the evening's program by inviting Ms. Beverly Lashley, National Librarian, to do the opening remarks and welcome.
Blacka Ellis, the Honorable Orlando Terrelong MP, State Minister in the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, awardees who are graciously present in the physical form, our partners who are here to assist us with our technical matters, and the hard-working staff of the National Library of Jamaica. Our board chair, Ms. Joy Douglas, is unavoidably absent, but we will have special virtual remarks from our Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, the Honorable Olivia Grange. To those participating online in Jamaica and across the world, a warm and hearty welcome to our Legal Deposit Month, at which we've dubbed Sweet 16 launch. Today marks a real significant milestone for legal deposits, as today marks 16 years since the passing of the Legal Deposit Act. So since 2004, Jamaicans at home and abroad have been readily sharing their talent and have been complying to the law by depositing and donating their creative end products with the National Library of Jamaica. I want to congratulate Mrs. Monique Forgy-Scott. She's our Collections Development Manager, and she's the organizer of today's event proceedings, and the NLJ team, who have prepared what I call a fun-filled package for us all to enjoy. Thank you very much.
People like me who are nerds, who love to read, know the value of the National Library. I am a voracious reader. I read whatever is written, I read it. I read Sardine Tin. Once there's something written there, I'm going to read it. Let me now invite to bring you special greetings the Honorable State Minister in the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, the Honorable Orlando Terry-Long.
Thank you so much. Our Master of Ceremonies, of course, our Chairperson of the National Library of Jamaica. Good day. Guests, well-wishers, and of course to our awardees and those who are watching online. This is the age of technology. And of course, we are making better use of the virtual space. Within the age of technology also is the recognition that we must have a streamlined and regulated approach to documenting and curating the national treasures produced by our creatives. So from films to books to music, whatever it is, every October we recognize and re-award the work of those creatives who help to preserve the Jamaican culture, who help to preserve our creative talents. And this is why we celebrate the National Deposit Month. This is why we recognize the importance of having a system where we can regulate, where we can preserve these treasures for all humanity, for all Jamaicans, and of course for generations to come. And so I want to thank my lady right here, and of course our entire team at the National Library for the work that they do. And to all our awardees, congratulations on your success. And to all our creative talents, without you, there would be no culture. And I want to encourage more of our creative talents, from our film producers, our musicians, our writers, our poets, everyone, please. It is important that you deposit a copy of your works right here at the National Library so that your artistic integrity, so that your creative talent can be protected, and also that we can have the benefit of the work for humanity. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you, Minister. I noted that Mr. Terry-Long kept his mask on, and I've taken mine off. I have discovered, thanks to this new COVID reality, that there's a difference between a famous face and a familiar forehead. So, this is my forehead, not the familiar. I have to keep my mask on so you know who's talking to you. Thank you, Minister. We're now going to be seeing a recorded presentation from the Honorable Minister of Culture herself as she shares her greetings.
In our culture, we pass on knowledge through the stories that we tell from one generation to the next. By so doing, we preserve our heritage. This is precisely what Legal Deposit is all about. It's about preserving our Jamaican stories and experiences for future generations, whether we put them on paper, vinyl, on CD, on tape, on film, or any other medium. Whatever we publish is part of our heritage, and we must safeguard it in the National Collection at the National Library. The collection is governed by the Legal Deposit Act. I'm very proud to say that over the last 16 years, local producers and publishers have been depositing copies of their works of all kinds with the National Library. This year, as we celebrate Legal Deposit Month, we wish to recognize 3 publishers and a collector who have been very diligent in depositing creative works with the National Library. I congratulate these 4 top depositors: Teddy Laidley, Valerie Brown, Ian Randall Publishers, and Jollywood Studios. And I encourage other authors, publishers, filmmakers, and members of the music fraternity who have not yet sent copies of their works to the National Library to do so now. It is a legal requirement and is also part of your responsibility to preserve our heritage by sharing our stories and our experiences with future generations. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister Grange. Can I say she's my favorite minister? Yeah, I said it. And yes, it is a legal requirement to all those who are creating content, video, film, audio, books. Please, you are required by law to deposit a copy of your work here at the National Library. It is required by law. Law? Like obeying the speed limit and so on? Law? Yes, law. Although I must confess I have broken the speed limit just once. But luckily, the officer who stopped me and thought I was Jimmy Cliff and said, Karen, carry on. I didn't sing a song though, but I know it's not Jimmy Cliff. Talking about singing a song, we're now going to be joined by one of the artists who is not only a performer and creator, but also a depositor with the National Library. So I want to invite Jadon to join me on screen up front and have him perform for you. Jadon.
Greetings, greetings, greetings to you all out there. Wherever you are, if you're sitting down eating a dinner right now or just on the road holding up vibes. And greetings to you are here right now, everyone who made this possible today. I just want to share a song with you all. This song is actually deposited already on my first debut album. It's called 369. This song is called Congo Bongo. And the story behind Congo Bongo, I mean, we all probably got through this story or got through something like this. And I mean, it was me to Empress. She see I and say she never see herself talking to a Rasta man, and I mean, but after getting to know I is the best thing she said she do in her life, you know. So I was just there one day and just asked her a question. This was the question that I asked her. Mr. Music Man. Jadon. Look you know, hey Empress, you never know the love what the Rasta youth you have for your elders. If you know it more, you sing it from in your house, wherever you are. Hey, you never know you woulda love the Congo Bongo. You never know you woulda love the far right. From the day she link with Iman, she say she love her Rastafari. You never know you woulda love the Congo Bongo. You never know you woulda love the far right. From the day she link with Iman, she say she love her Rastafari. She tell me she like everything she see in her Iman. She want every second out of me time, and she woulda give me anything, although she no mind man. At this spice when me give her, she have a mind pan. So me take her to the river, dash away the bad pan. Inna the hills, we go links, brain bobo. Him have the herbs and the wine, feel we meditation. Good loving, itchy and weird pan. You never know you woulda love the Congo Bongo. You never know you woulda love the far. From the day she link with Iman, she say she love her Rastafari. Hey, you never know you woulda love the Congo Bongo. You never know you woulda love the far. From the day she link with Iman, she say she love her Rastafari. She tell me, I say she love Rastafari, and she tell I say she have something for I know for them can't believe what Congo Bongo and Paropa and a squeeze. All of a sudden she no wanna red meat, a strictly ital's true. And some greens, She a tell about the coconut with the bean. I say anytime now, she a come palm me scheme. Hey, you never know, you woulda love the Congo Bongo. Yeah, them a sing it, man. You woulda love the far right. From the day she link with Iman, she say she love her Rastafari. Hey, you never know, you woulda love the Congo Bongo. From the day she link with Iman, she say she love her Rastafari. You never know you woulda love the Congo Bongo. You never know you woulda love the far. From the day she link with Iman, she say she love her Rastafari. Yes, sir, that's what it's called, Congo Bongo. Please check out the video on YouTube and check out the album.
Why you learn about legal deposit and how it benefited you as an artist?
How I got into music is a long story. Now. I mean, music in my community, I'm from Clarendon, a little community in Clarendon called Canaanite. So my community that I'm from is musical community. You know what I mean? I grew up seeing the stage show, all of them thing there. My uncle used to keep a stage show, so the music was always around me. Going to church, all of them thing there. So I started the music from a very tender age, very, very, very young. So into the music business, and by doing anything, you have to learn about all the steps around it. You know, so depositing my music was just one of the steps where I come to learn about within the music. You know what I mean? And
to do what you did and just deposit your work here?
well, as an artist or as a businessman or whatever you do, as I said before, you know, it was just one of the steps within the line, you know what I mean? So if you're doing anything, please try to get more information, you know what I mean? Because even with I, today I'm going to deposit this broom. I go to America in the COVID to promote my album called 369, and the craziness happened that we all know, and I see all these touch that grow in Jamaica that we use and build our broom. It was just there, and I use it and build a broom, and it's like it go crazy. Everybody love them, you know what I mean? So today I'm planning to deposit not just my music, but one of my merchandise, my broom merchandise, you know what I mean? So I think it is definitely something that we all should do, so that the country can definitely preserve our work, you know what I mean? So the next generation definitely can forward and see it. Yeah.
Thank you, Jadon. The live audience can clap him, you know. And those online can just send a clap icon or a sticker or emoji or whatever you do in this generation. Great job, Jadon. And again, he underlined the importance of doing what is required by law. Deposit your creative content here at the National Library of Jamaica. I'm going to now call on our next presenter, who will bring remarks from the music industry. She is a great artist, and I am proud to say that we attended the best high school in Jamaica. Yes, you have high school and you have high school, but the word excellency means yet higher. So please welcome Pam Hall to share from the music industry.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pam Hall, and I would like to congratulate the National Library of Jamaica on the 16th staging of their Legal Deposit Month celebrations. My contribution today concerns key contributions of Jamaica's music industry to our nation and the importance of building a music sound collection at the National Library of Jamaica. The music industry has contributed immeasurably and invaluably to Jamaica on several levels. The many genres of music which claim Jamaica as their birthplace and the far-reaching influence of our music is legendary and a great source of pride for Jamaicans at home and in the diaspora. In a very quick summary, I will highlight some of the ways in which our music industry has contributed to our nation. I will briefly touch on 4 areas. First one is music events. A music event is an economic activity that provides employment/income for several entities associated with it or affected by it. This list of entities would typically include musicians, artists, PA system owner and operators, the venue operator and those employed at the venue, food and drink providers and servers, sound system and operators, tailors, dressmakers, clothing stores, gas stations, I think that one is self-explanatory, transportation, whether it be taxi, car, bus, trucks, whether driven or rented, portable toilets, tents, chairs, lighting, barriers, security, parking attendants. Because of time constraints, I have listed about a quarter of the entities that would be linked to such an event. And I'm sorry I can't get to list them because I think most people don't realize how far-reaching these activities, these entertainment activities really are. And all of these activities stimulate the economy. 2, recorded music. The recording of music for commercial consumption requires facilities, studios, equipment, engineers, and of course, the obligatory artists, musicians, songwriters, producers, lawyers, maintenance, and clerical staff. 3, musical sales and broadcast, whether local or international. When recorded music is broadcast, it generates income for the performers, writers, composers, producers, and the publishers. It has also attracted international interest in Jamaica and its artists. This results in performances in foreign countries by our artists and is also a boost to our tourism sector. Publishing. Many songs from Jamaican songwriters have been recorded by Jamaican artists and overseas artists, and musicians musicians. They have been featured in movies, at international events, and in ad campaigns, both local and international. It is very important for a country for us to have a music sound collection at the National Library of Jamaica. It would be an important source of knowledge of our nation's musical history. It is of utmost importance that our music industry participates in this event and contributes to what could become a national treasure house for our nation. Let us all make this a reality. Make your legal deposits to the Jamaica National Library. Thank you.
A full musical icon, brilliant talent, combining beauty, brains, and immense talent. You go, great Excelsior, and you. And now we want to announce and make a presentation to a man who is a real giant in the industry, who is, anybody who's involved with music business must know this man. You know, if you want to get the tour organized, you want to be on tour like Jordan, you have to talk to this man. You know, he knows everything about how to organize, coordinate, planning tours, managing music, arrangement, production, publishing, and so on. He's also the top collector and depositor of Jamaican music, and today he's being honored. Please welcome Mr. Teddy Laidley, who will be presented with his award by Monique Fergie Scott, manager of the Collection Department branch here at National Library. Come show Teddy. The plaque says NLJ Legal Deposit Award 2020, Top Collector Depositor of Jamaican Music, Teddy Laidley. He's giving and he's receiving at the same time. Cultural studies and performance studies scholar Diana Taylor had a book called The Archive and the Repertoire, where she makes the argument that Western society puts a big value on archive, and she is actually proposing that repertoire is as important as the archive, with the idea that performance carries cultural memory and transmits information. And I'm not going to argue with her, but the fact is, generations pass, great minds die. And if we don't deposit stuff with the National Library, we could lose cultural memory and really important historical, cultural facts and artifacts. So it's important to support and be a part of the legal deposit trust. And to just reinforce that argument, we're going to now see some testimonials from some people who will support the idea. We're going to have testimonials via video from Mrs. Charmaine Henton and Mrs. Joy Fairclough.
The National Library of Jamaica was invited to my son's album launch, 5 at 5. Yes, he was 5 years old. 13 years later, I could not find the files. Then I thought to myself, the National Library of Jamaica, I made a legal deposit then. So with an email, I asked, could I get my files? The next day, it was in my inbox. I had all my files. They archived my work. So think about it. Why don't you make your legal deposit? You need to make your legal deposit because the National Library of Jamaica will archive your work and it will be there forever. Make your legal deposit.
Brilliant. Well said. Now let's hear from Mrs. Joy Fairclough.
Hello, I am Joy Fairclough of Joy Music Limited. And today I'm celebrating with the National Library of Jamaica their 16th year of the Legal Deposit Act, as well as the Legal Deposit Month. Guess what? I've benefited from their guidance on how to put on ice bins on my books, as well as their guidance on audiovisual requirements. And today I'm actually putting in a book about those kind of things. So today my book is a short introduction to the recording and release requirements. And I spoke about such things as the ice bins that were needed for these books. Jamaica needs to know, and all persons need to know, that when we do our legal deposits, it helps with marketing of our businesses and products and services. Guess what? People read and they look and they listen to the materials deposited at the National Library of Jamaica. So I encourage all to take advantage of this month and put in your legal deposits. We need them. We need them. Our people need to see them and hear them and read them. Thank you. Thank you, National Library of Jamaica.
Thank you, Mrs. Fairclough. So if you have illegal deposit, talk to the police. But legal deposit, bring them to the National Library of Jamaica. It's required by law. Am I right or am I right? Absolutely. So now we're going to share in a moment of celebration, and we're going to see a video testimony from a lady who's the champion depositor. She had, for the past 16 years, she won the prize for the author with the most deposits over the last 16 years. And I must say, I envy her. I only have one book that I've deposited here so far. One Dege book. One book. And she has deposited consistently over the past 16 years. Her name is Mrs. Valerie Brown. And we'll share her testimonial via video link.
My heartiest congratulations to the National Library of Jamaica on the phenomenal job it has been doing in protecting the work of numerous individuals. This, I am sure, is possible because of the leadership and teamwork of this organization. As you celebrate your sweet 16th anniversary of legal deposit in Jamaica, I wish for you continued success. I am extremely grateful for being considered for such a prestigious award by your entity. I became involved in writing and publishing out of a need to find relevant material for my children and then for my grandchildren. Of course, this has been over a period of 30 years. I was especially challenged by friends and relatives that I was not capable of doing such an activity, and so I took the challenge, and here I am today. I found that as I produced the material, other persons found them useful, and so it encouraged me and allowed me to produce more and more. And so I want to thank the National Library for the role that it has played in my production. I wish for you all the best as you celebrate this important milestone. And I will pray that God will continue to bless you as you continue to serve Jamaica and the wider world. Thank you for your kind consideration, and I look forward with much excitement. Thank you.
And we thank you and congratulate you, Mrs. Valerie Brown, for being the person who has done the most deposits over the past 16 years. We now hear remarks from our film commissioner, remarks from the film industry, shared by Ms. Renee Robinson, the film commissioner.
Hi, I'm Renee Robinson. I'm the Film Commissioner of Jamaica. It is my absolute pleasure to be here with you today, well, virtually, to congratulate the National Library on the celebration of the 16th anniversary of the Legal Deposits Act. Today is an important day for content creators and IP protectors. When we create content, it takes all of our passion, our creativity, our identity. We put our culture and our heritage into this content that we've created. And through the Legal Deposits Act, there's an opportunity to have that heritage, that culture, that identity, that passion to be protected and preserved as part of the National Archives. So congratulations to the National Library for continuing its work with the Legal Deposits Act. And I want to encourage all of you filmmakers out there to go ahead and deposit your work with the National Library. Have a wonderful Legal Deposits Month.
Thank you, Renee Robinson, Film Commissioner of Jamaica. We'll now enjoy the screening of a short film teaser, The Affair, by a Kanai Condison production. Watch and enjoy this brief teaser.
My name is Michael Kane, and I love my wife. We have been married for 2 perfect years. I love my wife.
Can I come and stay with you guys? I promise, you won't even know that I'm there. I heard you guys having sex last night.
Must Jesus bear the cross alone and all the world go free? No, there's a cross for everyone, and there's a cross is for me. Very interesting teaser there, The Affair, a Kanai Condison film. And we want to now share with you that Mr. Kanai Condison is the top depositor in film. And we want to present him with a plaque to recognize his achievement as the top depositor. We invite Ms. Beverly Lashley to present. He's not, no Kanai, no presentation. I could take it for him, I like to collect things, but his film is about a man who obviously might be making an illegal deposit. So I would rather not do anything that's not too legal. And we're going to move right on and share with you another video presentation, remark from the book industry, shared by Mrs. Latoya West Blackwood.
Hello, I'm Latoya West Blackwood, the chairperson of the Book Industry Association of Jamaica, and it is our absolute pleasure to help the National Library of Jamaica to officially celebrate Legal Deposit Month 2020. Now, 2020 has been a year like no other. We can all agree about that. But we can also agree that the work of preserving the nation's archives continues, and the National Library of Jamaica is our champion in that regard. Legal deposits, it's so much more than the matter of simply carrying in your books and other materials of your work. It is about 1. Respecting and observing copyright, and 2. Helping to make a contribution to documenting the intellectual, the historical, and the cultural record of Jamaica's excellence. And that is something that we can all support. And so we encourage you, one and all, to support this effort and to play your part so that we can have an archive we can all be proud of for years to come. We congratulate the management and leadership team of the National Library for all the work that they have been doing over the years, and we can't wait to see what they will do with all of your support, our support, in the years to come. Well done, and happy Legal Deposit Month 2020.
You'll be treated to a reading from an excerpt from Tara's Family Secret, to be read by author Dr. Cheryl Shelley Robinson. Please welcome her live audience, and please share her on virtual audience.
Good evening, everyone, present and online in our electronic age. Just want to give you a little fill-in on the book that I have written before I read the excerpt. Before I read the excerpt for you. I've been writing from I was a child, actually, and continued writing all my life. Added to the fact, I'm a librarian, so books and reading have become my forte all my life. So I spend all my working time as a librarian, finding as a lecturer in librarianship. So reading and books are synonymous to me all my life. This story actually was created maybe 28 years ago or whatever it was, the first outline when I got the thought of the story. But it stayed there simmering while I'm working and doing my other stuff. The concept behind the story, I write for young people, for children, and this is more a book for the early teenager. So the idea came to me of this young girl who recently entered teenage. So she's now 13. And her concept of teenage is that now she's old enough to know what happens in adult life. What happens in adult life? At home, they say, walk carefully, don't talk to strangers, etc. But she's figuring out I've passed that age. I want to know what is happening in my family. If my mother not talking to my father, to my uncle, to my cousin, I need to know why. I'm old enough now, and I also have the right to express my opinions on family matters and family affairs. So when she arrived at the magical age of 13, she spent each day waiting for her parent, her mother in this case, to come and start initiate her into family business. But of course, knowing her Jamaican parent, nothing of the sort happened. Now, this is the nature of her household. Her parents aren't married. No big thing to her. They love her, she loved them, and they're living together for all these years. But problems arise now with this not being married issue. Because the mother had gone to Kingston as a young person to learn nursing. They come from the country. And she came home pregnant. And that was 23 years ago. And she had never told anybody who is a child's father. She never told her mother. She never told anybody. So Marie grows up not having a clue who her father is. All right? The little girl, who is maybe 9 and so forth at that time, was very concerned. But now she's 13. She becomes even more concerned about that. Because get what happened? Her sister is about to get married now. And because the family would not tell Tara what is happening in the family, she started eavesdropping outside her parents' window to hear whenever anything juicy happens, she knows she'll go there, she'll hear them discussing it. And they don't know. So the daughter, big daughter from Kingston, who's gone to Kingston to study too, to work, she sends back a letter to tell him that she's getting married. So she overhears this before, they formally tell her the news. Well, everybody is happy. But then one day her mother's best friend comes by and they're two of them are in the parent room discussing the wedding. Then she discovered that her mother is extremely unhappy that her daughter is going to get married before her. Because she has been married, she's been living with Tara's father for these whatever years. And so she's a little misfixed. So she decides she wants to be a psychologist when she grows up. So she decides she's going to remedy the problem. So she's going to move heaven and earth to get her mother and father married. Because the wedding invitations are supposed to go out. And her mother's concern is, I want to see Mr. and Mrs. request the pleasure of your presence. at their daughter's wedding. So she has that to do. Then I guess as she's eavesdropping, and this is the issue in the whole novel, she hears adult things, she doesn't understand them, and so she takes certain action. So then her mother's best friend asked her mother, while she's eavesdropping, don't you think it's time to tell Marie who is her father? And the mother gets in a rage and traces off in good Jamaican way her Jamaican best friend, and even tell her to leave her house and don't come back. She's going to ask her that question because she has never told anybody who that person is, and she's not about to do it now. Well, Tara hears this, and she's now thinking, but it's true. I think my sister has a right to know who is her father. So this is task number 2. I am going to move heaven and earth to find out who is my sister's father before she gets married too. Okay, she keeps on eavesdropping and working out her way to work it out, because that's leading to the chapter I'm going to read for you now. So one day again, she's eavesdropping. This time it's her mother talking to her grandmother. And her grandmother is saying, you know something? The grandmother also wants her daughter to get married, let's face it. And saying, you know, father dilly-dallying and say, you know something, we could get him to marry you. Try to find a way to make him jealous. She didn't wait, the teenager didn't wait to hear anymore. Here she have a third idea now. Oh, so if I make daddy jealous of mommy, then the possibility exists that, you know, he will marry her, because I realize that means she might be gone or leaving him. So she's now going to do something to make him jealous. So what she does now is Valentine's Day is coming up. She goes to the pharmacy. She buys the biggest, most lavish Valentine card, and she writes in it, you know, to her mother. Her mother's name is Rita. From your secret admirer. Why she buys such a big card? She wants her father to see it, because she's hoping that when he sees somebody on the outside is sending his girlfriend or his wife, so to speak, in Jamaican terms, a Valentine card, then he'll get jealous. And in her teenage mind, he will move up and, of course, marry her mother. So she sends the card, and it's to arrive a couple of days after Valentine's Day. She didn't want to arrive on Valentine's Day. Another thing that this young lady does, she's a very active, mischievous girl. There's a daily evening newspaper that has a Dear Counselor session in it every weekend. And so she reads this, her grandmother reads it every weekend, buys it, and is at home. And one day she's there thinking, these people writing all these problems and the counselor writing back answers. You know what she's going to do? I'm going to pretend to be an adult, and I'm going to write my mother's problem to the counselor, see what answer she gives me, and then I will let my mother see the letter somehow. But she did not expect the letter to be published. The person had an email. She wrote the counselor and said, it's urgent, must send her back an answer to the email. So she didn't want the answer to come to the paper. Lo and behold, the counselor publishes the letter. The father reads the letter. The conditions are so close to him that he accuses his girlfriend of having written the letter. And she's saying, I did not. He said, but look at all the details. It matched too carefully. So now they had a big row, and they are not talking to each other. So it's a day now. She goes to the post office. It's in a country district, so you go to the post office still. She's hoping to intercept the Valentine card, because she realized that they're having a ruckus. Now it's not a good time for it to arrive. When she arrives, the postmistress, who knows everybody's business, tells her that her father has collected the card already. And she is terrorized at what is about to happen. So she goes home. Her mother comes home from work, and her father is in the living room. They're barely talking to each other, you know, and then they go into the bedroom. Immediately, she goes around to her eavesdropping spot, and this is what happens. Quick as a flash, Tara was at her favorite spot on the veranda, outside her parents' bedroom window. Her heart was in her mouth. As frightened, she wondered what might happen next. She was just in time to hear her father speaking. I got a letter for you today, Rita. He spoke in a slow, deliberate voice, without any trace of his special playfulness. Oh, I wonder who is writing to me now. It certain couldn't be Marie again. No, it's not her. That I'm sure of. I wonder how you know that. Because it came in a big, bright red envelope, her father replied. That seemed to catch her mother's attention. Oh, so where is it? Right here under my pillow. So that's why Jolene and I never found it, Tara said. Why hadn't I thought of that? Because she had gone looking for it. Under your pillow? I wonder why. She sounded a bit irritated. By what he said next, it seemed as if he had taken it from under the pillow and handed it to her. So wait. You're not going to open it? Her father asked. Wait. Since when do I have to open my letters and tell you what's in them? Her mother was getting somewhat irritated. Because I want to know who is sending my woman a Valentine card. That's why. His voice was bordering on anger, but tinged with curiosity. Valentine card? Her mother gave a quick laugh. Ha! Well, I know right away that is not from you. After all, you think I'm too old for such things. It sounded to Tara as if her mother was deliberately picking a quarrel with her father. But this isn't the right time, Mama, she said to herself. Please. Rita, don't let me have to find out for myself, you know. Her father's voice had a serious edge to it. Dear God, please don't let him lose his temper, Tara prayed desperately. She could hear the outright provocation in her mother's voice as she continued talking. Valentine card. This could mean that somebody out there really likes me. And that's not so bad after all. He might even want to marry me, unlike some people. Stop, Mama, please, Tara whispered to herself. Stop talking like that. Don't make Daddy mad. It could really lead to bad trouble. Tara's nerves were stretched tight like the skin of a drum, waiting to explode into sound at the slightest touch of hand. You're not going to open the letter, eh, Rita? Her father's voice was dangerously calm and insistent. Why would I do that? It's my letter to open when I feel like. The emphasis on the I was very strong. Tara knew her father well enough to realize that her mother should never have said something like that. Immediately, there was the sound of the tearing of paper accompanied by her mother's voice in protest. Tara realized her father had lost his temper and had snatched a letter from her mother. He must have torn it open because the next thing Tara heard was his voice raised in red-hot anger as he read the words aloud. From a secret admirer? Do you think I don't know who sent it? Secret? What secret? The two of them must think that I'm blind and don't see what's going on right under my nose. Ever since he came back here with his fancy clothes and foreign accent, he believes the whole world belongs to him, including you. On hearing this, Tara realized that her father really believed that her mother was fooling around with someone. From what he was saying, that person was none other than Mr. Green, their neighbor who had recently returned from Canada. Oh no! Her father had now given Tara's fictitious secret admirer a face and a name. This was not what she had planned. What he would do now was anybody's guess. Her mother seemed to also come to the same realization. There was surprise in her voice as she said, Stop talking foolishness, Simon. We are just friends from a long time ago. Can't you see that? Yes, because you know each other for a long time. He thinks he can just waltz in here and try to take you away from it just like that. You are my woman, and you'd better not forget that. Simon, what are you talking about? It's nothing like that. Tara could hear the beginning of real fear in her mother's voice. Ignoring her pleas, her father continued, trying to play cat and mouse with me. He thinks he's smart? Well, he'll soon find out. The heavy tread was heard on the floor as he headed for the veranda. Her mother was calling out after him, Simon, it's not true. Simon, come right back here. No, don't do anything foolish. But he paid her no attention. Extremely frightened, Tara dashed around the front in time to see her father heading straight for Mr. Green's yard and her mother running after him. Tara knew now for sure his father was going after Mr. Green and that he was ready for a fight. But she did not know what to do. And so she started running after her mother, who by now was screaming at the top of her lungs, Stop, Simon, please, leave Speedy alone. Did her mother say Speedy? For a fleeting moment, Tara recalled the name in the old Valentine card she had found among her mother's things. It was signed Speedy. So according to Aunt Carol, this was the same guy on whom her mother had a crush a long time as a teenager. Oh boy, things were getting wild. Curious neighbors, attracted by the noise, came out to see what was happening. Mr. Green also heard the commotion, and so he too came out on his veranda, followed by Mabi, that's Tara's grandmother, who was visiting his mother. At that very moment, an angry Simon climbed onto the veranda. Without asking any question, he landed a punch to Mr. Green's midsection. The visitor's knee buckled from the surprising blow, as well as from the shock, not expecting that this would happen. Then he quickly rallied to defend himself against this unexpected assault. Immediately, the two men were locked in earnest combat without a single word being uttered. The women were screaming, begging the two men to stop. Tara's mother's voice was loudest of all, and she was also crying. In the meantime, the men among the small crowd which had quickly gathered were more interested in who would win the fight, so they did nothing to stop it. The men traded blows, but the fight did not last long. Although Mr. Green was taller, Simon was stockier and packed a much stronger punch. So when he saw an opening, he delivered a powerful uppercut to Mr. Green's jaw and threw him to the ground, where he stretched out, unmoving. The men looked at Mr. Cameron with admiration for his fighting skill, while the women screamed even louder. Frightened at the sight of Mr. Green lying down as if dead, Tara's mother cried out, "Oh my God, Simon killed Marie's father." The 23-year-old secret was out.
And Dr. Shelley, who looked like a Sunday school teacher, write this story with all its violence and overgibbon. Poor Simon and Mr. Green. You know, it's always interesting how when we learn that authors inhabit characters that doesn't necessarily speak to their own life. And that's the beauty of creativity. I tell folks, Bob Marley did not shoot any sheriff. He's a great storyteller. Thank you so much, Dr. Shelley Robinson, with a live presentation as we present the award for Top Depositor in Books to Ian Randall Publishers. We invite Mr. Randall to step forward to be presented by Minister Terry Long. So we present to Ian Randall, and we invite Minister Terry Long to make the presentation. Ian Randall, OD, big-time publisher. Okay, so we're gonna have Mr. Randall receive live and respond live. Live.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry to be thrown into this unaccustomed role, but having refused to speak, I think circumstances now insist that I do. So first of all, to accept this award on behalf of Ian Randall Publishers, and not just on our behalf, but on behalf of all the awardees this afternoon in this important 16th year. For Ian Randall Publishers, it's a particularly significant award, since in fact this very month we'll be celebrating our 30th year in business. And to make this award and the timing of it even more significant is the fact that, and this is for everybody's consumption, on the 21st of this month, Brown University in the United States and our own University of the West Indies will be hosting a webinar in the company's honor. And I invite you all to join in and listen to what people have to say. 2 points I want to make this afternoon. One is that as far as Ian Randall Publishers is concerned, we would have produced even more books and deposited even more books in these 16 years had there been more readers. And the real challenge in this country is not about publishing or talent, it's about people who are willing to read. And this is most significant because I've just today read a report in Publishers Weekly, which is the organ of the American book trade. And its latest figures show that in 2020, for the first 9 months of the year, book sales in the United States have increased by 6.5% over last year. And Shelley will be even more pleased to hear that the largest category is in young adult literature. So we have a lot to learn in this country. We have a lot to follow, and we must appreciate the talent that exists here. Thank you very much. And Blacker, I'm Excelsiorian.
Why am I not surprised? Proud Excelsiorian, the school that produced Miss Lou and Courtney Walsh and Blacker Ellis and Ian Randall. Thank you. We're winding down, or should I say winding up, as we now present a performance by Chase. Chase. Chase it.
Blessings, everybody. How you doing? Yeah, man, it's great to be here, you know. Always good to be a part of, you know, the legal deposit and, you know, just celebrating the art that we have here, celebrating the talent that we have here, because, you know, it's Jamaica and this is like none other, you know what I mean? So it's good that we have something that we can, you know, where we can put our art and have it stored. So here we go. I'd like to introduce everybody to one of my latest singles. I'm getting so used to this, I'm sorry. Yeah, one of my latest singles, I'll Save My Love, produced by Sajay Productions. So this is just all about when you find that right person. You know, I think there's a song lyric that says, it doesn't take the whole day to recognize sunshine, right? So this is when you just find her, you just know, you know? So here we go. All right, so while they're waiting and getting that started, once again, my name is Chase. And yeah, I don't know if any of you remember 2009 Rising Stars. I was a part of that group of, you know, performing artists, and, you know, I finished in the top 10, and, you know, that experience really, you know, brought me, you know, further in my mind in terms of what it really took to, you know, become an artist and to have a career in music. So here we go. Ready? Yeah, yeah, Said no matter what comes, I'll be here for you. I'll save my love for you. Oh, I'll save my love. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'll save my love for you. Yeah, yeah. Can nobody else take your place? No, 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 no. Said I've been around the world and I met a lot of girls, but I never met one like you. Seen a lot of faces, all the right places, but the love just won't do. Cause all I ever see is us, and I will never break this trust. You're the queen to keep my heart, so don't you fret when we're apart, cause I'll save my love for you. Whoa, whoa, I'll save my love for you. Yeah, yeah, I'll save my love for you. Whoa, can nobody else take your place? You're the help that makes my life complete. You're beautiful, but in a just skin deep. But that I love, but you're loving sweet. And I'm so glad you're loving me. Hey, I know I might not be there sometimes. I know it's hard, but we're still gonna try. People change and feelings go, but I just want you to know I'll save my love for you. Whoa, whoa, I'll save my love for you. Hey, lady, awardees, I save my love for you. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Can nobody else take your place? Seems like no one believes in love again. Such a shame. Love is just a ride, they just go for a spin. All a game. I give you my all, girl, and I won't forsake you. Boo boo. No word of God, so I'm holding on to you. Boo boo boo. Oh, I'll save my love for you. Whoa, whoa, I'll save my love for you. Whoa, baby, I'll save my love for you. Yeah, yeah. Can nobody else take your place? No. I will save my love. I will save my love. Save my love. Thank you very much. Once again, I go by the name Chase. Respect.
You see, I love reading, and reading requires word recognition. When I saw Chase's name, I was like, how is this pronounced? I spelled with a 4 in the instead of the A. I'm like, him name Chaforth? Him really named Chase. It doesn't escape me that we should note the convergence in the cultural industries. Great books can become great films. And great films need good musical soundtrack. And musical artists need to go on tour. Right, Teddy? So there's always this wonderful convergence that we can all be a part of. Right? I want to big up Chase and Jadon, young artists, who are seeing the value of depositing their work here. So really wonderful. And I want to note Mr. Randall's warning to us that we need to read more. I grew up in Trenchtown, and I was saved from a life of crime because I love books. I read everything. Nancy Drew, the Boy, Bob the Twin, Cowboy comic. I just kept on reading. While other people are fighting and bleeding and doing other things than breathing, I was busy reading. And I'm the better for it. Let's now welcome Vanessa James, PR and Marketing Officer from the National Library, to bring you the votes of thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is amazing to actually see you all here this afternoon. The production for today, it took a lot. It took a lot, and we had some difficulties, but I think we did well just the same. So, thank you to everyone here, the awardees. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, and I hope that you will actually keep depositing and continue to encourage others to deposit also. To Minister Terrelong, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for actually taking part in our Sweet 16 celebration. It would not have been, the same without your presence. Ms. Lashley, members of the NLJ staff and team, you know the energy, the effort that went into producing all of this, and I just want to tell you thank you so much. To Dr. Shelley Robinson, that book, Tara's Family Secret, this was just such an interesting story, right? It is not only a warning for children to stay out of big people business, right? But also it sounds like a page turner, something that I really would like to read. So she said that we have copies here, so you can actually buy one before you leave so that you can actually hear the rest of the story. Because it sounds like a very interesting one, right, everybody? Yes. To Pam Hall, thank you again for being here, yes. And thank you for not only speaking about music and so on, but just to show that how music really affects us in our everyday life, and why we need to really pay attention and really deposit our work here so for posterity, for future generations. Okay? And to everybody else, visitors and family and friends who came along with our invited guests, thank you. Thank you again. Mr. Ellis, last but by no means least, thank you so much for coming here and making this event just a notch above what we even expected. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Coming to you live from the Daphne Douglas Reading Room at the National Library of Jamaica. I want to say one last thing and then I close. I quote the word of a famous Jamaican and the great Excelsiorian, Miss Lou. Miss Lou said, every hoe have sticker bush, every long road have bend, sun hot have shady tree, and the longest prayer have amen. Amen.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Christine Randall. I am the Managing Director of Ian Randall Publishers. I'm so sorry I can't be there with you this afternoon, but circumstances really prevent me from being there in person. Nevertheless, I would never shy away from anything involving the National Library. Ian Randall Publishers and the National Library have been partners for such a very long time. And if I recall correctly, I believe that we were involved in initial consultations for the Legal Deposit Act and its coming into force and into being. So it's really wonderful to learn that we have earned this Top Depositor award. I really am here to say thank you on behalf of Ian Randall Publishers and the other winners, Teddy Laidley Productions, Jollywood Jamaica, and Mrs. Valerie Brown. You know, the relationship with the National Library as the repository for all of these legal deposits that we need to make has been a wonderful and significant partnership and collaboration. For creators like my fellow winners and persons like myself who provide a vehicle for some of the creators, the National Library and Legal Deposit really is such a wonderful tool, maybe, that a lot of us are not aware of. A tool, I say, because one, depositing your work with the National Library immediately provides accessibility to the entire nation. Yes, it's mandated, but there are benefits. So that is the first benefit, the accessibility. And of course, in this information and digital age, you know, our librarians or information specialists are really key to helping the public really get access to the materials that we produce. But they can only grant access if they actually have the material, which is why, as I said, accessibility is really a wonderful tool for creators. As well, you know, there's nothing more satisfying, certainly as a book publisher and an academic publisher for academic work, when you are working on something and you see your material referenced, material that you have previously published referenced. So, you know, in terms of preservation, longevity, and preserving copyright as well, you know, it's the legal deposit, as I said, it is mandatory, but it is actually quite beneficial to creators and those of us who are here to help protect copyright and bring these creations to the public. And thirdly, I have to tell you that we were thrilled to hear of this award, only because it was being done in this month, October, and today I understand is actually the operational date, October 11 in 2004, when the Legal Deposit Act came into force. So it's significant that it's happening today, but even more so for me, and I hope my fellow winners will forgive me for this, but it's especially pleasing for us because this month Ian Randall Publishers actually kicks off our 30th anniversary. If you can believe it, 30 years ago, the company was registered and began setting up and opened its doors actually January 1, 1991, but the actual commencement date was 1990. And so in our usual way, we won't be having any big celebrations or anything like that. But of course, for us, it is significant that this milestone is marked with an achievement with one of our key partners and collaborators, which is the National Library, not only in its capacity as the legal depository, but also as a valued partner that we have had for the 30 years that we've stayed the course. And so I just want to end by saying it's a wonderful recognition that the National Library is doing to promote the legal deposit. And I would urge all creators of whatever medium that is accepted by the National Library, deposit your works, because it can only inure to your benefit. It's a permanent record of your work, it protects your copyright, and it gives access to not only the Jamaican public, but you must remember that the National Library is part of a network of worldwide libraries and cataloging information and so on that is international in nature. And so your work, you could have an even wider avenue for your work. So to the National Library, I say congratulations and thank you again on behalf of all of the creators.
Yeah man, the EP shot, brother. I have to deposit this to the National Library of Jamaica.
Deposit? No man, a waste of time that.
It's not a waste of time. Any music or film produced in Jamaica has to be deposited to the National Library of Jamaica. Yo John, show me one.
You can even get charged up to 50,000 if you not deposit the thing to National Library of Jamaica, you know. What you say?
Yeah, I see one ad on TV and even book them deposit. They trust me and I want me so like my grandfather.
Never think about it that way, still.
Just look at it as a preserve your work. Yeah. Do the right thing.
Legal deposit. A requirement that all national producers in Jamaica must deposit copies of their work to the National Library of Jamaica.
Yo, artist, you're not going to turn. Beg your judge, no?
Grandma.
Grandpa never write one book.
Yes, my child.
Grandpa write book?
The only copy we did have burned up in the fire in 2007. Give me, Daniel, when the grandfather did all this, you see, I tell him to make a deposit at the National Library of Jamaica. Would I have a copy today?
Deposit? Library bank?
No, my child, not that deposit. I mean, legal deposit. Government did pass one law say publishers and producers should submit copies of their publications to the National Library of Jamaica.
That's why when me write my book, I'm going to make sure I bring it down to the National Library of Jamaica just for safekeeping.
Yes, my child. Do the right thing. Granny says so. Do the right thing.
Legal deposit. A requirement that all national publishers, producers of documents in Jamaica must deposit copies of their work to the National Library of Jamaica.